9 equals 0. This mystical math is stranger, yet more logical than 1 times 1 equals 2. Look out, Terrence Howard. This mystical math has been around actually for quite a long time. Some call it Pythagoreanism, the cult of Pythagoras. You know, that guy who his name is put on the Pythagorean theorem, even though it was around long before he was. 9 equals 0. Yes, recently Neil deGrasse Tyson he responded to Terrence Howard's paper, and it was actually a good response. It seemed pretty fair and balanced, as Fox News wishes they could be. However, you know, as a science fiction communicator, which is a title I adopted a few years ago, because, well, you know, I'm going to get into that at some other point in time. Right now, and it's in the introduction to my failed publication called Excommunicado Science Fiction Communication, my Hypnoathletics Internet Archives, which I've got to have another go at. But it basically explains the path that I'm on. I thought that book would be right here in front of me somewhere. I could grab it. Oh, there it is. It's under other books. And so this is it right here. And so 9 equals 0. I know it sounds strange, but bear with me for a moment. It actually makes sense. It's actually not that strange, and it's just that maybe many people haven't heard of it, because this is what happens when you combine arithmetic, the science of numbers, with numerology, which many people consider to be a pseudoscience, although I'm on the fence about that. But that's what it makes me wonderfully to myself me, because I am able to actually really, really ride the very many worlds. And it's a great place to be. For example, one of the things is I started following the cult of Billy Carson, and I let myself get in there deep and have already become disillusioned. I watched his Joe Rogan interview and was just disappointed at the many, many follies that came through on there, plus many things before. This is not to tear him down, and even saying that, I should know as a hypnotist that in people's minds it's like tear him down, because, you know, we don't respond to these negatives. But it's just there's really so many things wrong. Even the what I call the cosmology and the philosophy. There's just so many things that, you know, if you really wanted to understand the idea of something beyond religion, don't start bringing in another creator. When you understand the real concept of eternity, which I say all knowledge and all power is in all places at all times, this actually goes along with, and I've said this before, you know, with the title of the movie, which says everything everywhere all at once, which you know, Max Tegmark you know, made a statement that sounds very similar to that. But this also you know, is part of the Copenhagen interpretation of the Schrodinger equation and the many worlds hypothesis. And, you know, you could take that line, and you could, if you really wanted to do some real metaphysics, you should follow that track. I mean, that's why my metaphysics, I decided to create an acronym of it and stick as close to the natural sciences as possible. And my metaphysics, first of all, you may not know that the word meta is a Greek word that means beyond or above or even encompassing something, right? It's, to many, it's a branch of philosophy that is dealing with the origin of the universe, all those basic fundamental questions, you know. where do we come from? Where are we going? All that kind of stuff. Are we alone? Why do we think? Basic ontology and things like that. But, my metaphysics, I also made an acronym of the word meta. And so that I really believe that if people want to consider themselves metaphysicists or metaphysicians, as they sometimes take the title, that they need to have the fundamentals to say things like, because you'll hear a lot of people in metaphysical and New Age circles saying, well, the scientists don't know, and the scientists have it all wrong, and they don't know, about this thing. But my understanding is that a lot of people who want to go into the New Age and metaphysics and supernatural and paranormal wouldn't say the things that they were saying if they knew some of the fundamentals of science. I mean, most of the fundamentals of science I know without having to know the equations. When you understand the bigger picture, some of those things you don't say. Like, for example, the many worlds. If you just follow that track of the many worlds hypothesis based on the Schrodinger equation and the Copenhagen interpretation, that basically says that everything is in a state of limitless potential. Of basically it's this wave function of possibility of these many different states that something can be in, like with Schrodinger's cat, for example, that you don't know unless you observe. And and in the many worlds hypothesis, we have ideas that from physicists, I say we, but as humans, we have in our annals of knowledge in this branch of learning and understanding in physics that these many worlds are simultaneous but separate, and the decisions you make go and branch off into all the different worlds. But you see, even me just talking about something that is based in quantum mechanics, you can really start to take off if you really want to start theorizing, and you can go way out there. I do it all the time. It's nuts. That's why I have long since said, what, I gotta reel things in a little bit here and look at how my mind thinks from a different perspective. But 9 equals 0. I want to get to that and show how this is stranger, but also it is more rational than 1 times 1 equals 2, because I can easily demonstrate it with the science of numerology, which I did say it was a pseudoscience earlier. And this is because, so you can see I've already done a couple of videos already about numerology and the commutative law of addition, excuse me, dry throat here, and numerology and the associative law of addition. And what I'm doing is showing how you can exercise your mind to these very fundamental basics of arithmetic, the science of numbers, by playing with numerology for fun. It's fun. Numerology is fun. Now, I'm not going to any of the characteristics of numerology because it's very similar to what astrology is, where they say that by your birth date, you have characteristics that are assigned to you. It's your destiny. It's predestined, all that. That's not necessary. And I already demonstrated that in those videos. The commutative law of addition, meaning it doesn't matter what order you add a different set of numbers, nor how you add different groups of numbers, how you group them when you add them either. It doesn't matter. You're still going to get the same sum. Still get the same number. It doesn't matter. So here, this 9 equals 0. When you want to make some quick calculations in numerology to figure out, say, for example, your destiny number, the birth date, right? And I've been using this date way in the future, because it's really easy, because it's just the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So January 2nd in the year 3456. So based on this this birth date, right, we can show how 9 equals 0. I know. Where is he going with this? So, for example, you can start adding these numbers together, right? So let's just take a look at what I mean. Let's just take the year, which is 3456. There's a 4 and a 5 right next to each other, right? Sandwiched between that 3 and the 6, right? Well, when you look at 4 and 5 is 9. And I just keep that in mind right there. And look at the math we're going to do right here. Now, in numerology, the numbers for the most part get reduced to a single number or single numeral, because it's really about the numerals, and which are subtly different from a number. A number is the actual quantity of something, whereas a numeral is the symbol that represents it. But if we want to look at the actual, take a look at both of them, because we're talking about number as well as the numerals here that represent them, because ultimately they're tied together when you do these things. But if we just add the numerals of the and the numbers of the year together, right, and we're going to come up with a number here, and then you'll see how 9 equals 0 in the case of numerology, reducing numbers to a single digit in order to then look at that single digit, that single numeral, to find its characteristics and then talk about that. Right, so 3 plus 4 is 7, 7 plus 5 is 12, and 12 plus 6 is 18, right? And the 1 and 8 is 9. Okay, now here's another case where we have a 9, where this 9 is going to become a 0 for all intents and purposes. And then I'll go back just to the 4 and a 5 that I talked about earlier. But if we look at 3 and 4, right, for the year 3456, we have 3 plus 4 is 7, and then the 5 plus 7 is 12, and then the 6 plus the 12 is an 18, 1 and 8 is a 9. Now, that's just the year. There's that number 9, which I'm saying is equal to 0. For these purposes, and these purposes only, in the pseudoscience of numerology, now we still have the birth month and day, which is January 2nd, so 1 and 2, right? So if we just take that 1 and 2, and this is also, I'm using the associative law of the addition right now, because I just added one group of numbers. Now I'm adding another group of numbers together, the 1 and 2, right? And it doesn't matter how I group them, but for right now, 1 plus 2 is 3. Now check this out. 3 plus that 9, right, together is 12. And what is 12 when you reduce it in numerology for their purposes? Well, 12 is a 1 plus 2, which is again a 3. And this works for every number. 9 is a very special number this way. It even has some really awesome properties when you're doing multiplication with it, which I'll get to as a little bonus here. And you might already know that one. 999, fantastic number 9. I gotta find that song. When I was a little kid, I used to hear it all the time. It was awesome. But let's take a look at this. Here's what I mean. 9 plus 1 is 10. And the 10 has the digits 1 and 0. The numerals 1 and 0. 1 and 0 is 1. So the 9 plus 1 equals 1. So 9 is acting like a 0 here. Let's look at it again. 9 plus 2 is 11. And 11 is a 1 and a 1, which is 2. So 9 plus 2 makes a 2 again. It's like a 0. We can go on and on. 9 plus 3, right, is 12, which we just went over. And 12 is 1 and 2 is 3. 9 plus 4 is 13. 1 and 3 is 4. 9 plus 5 is 14. 1 and 4 is 5. You get where I'm going here? 9 equals 0. But it actually arithmetically makes sense if we use this little spin on it of numerology having to reduce everything to a single digit. And the purpose of why I started looking at 9 in that way is because I realized it was able to help me make quick calculations when I was doing what they call numeroscopes in numerology. I've been playing with this for a long time, and so a lot of things become apparent to you when you're doing something all the time, every day, and obsessing over it. So that's how 9 equals 0, is anytime you add 9 to another number, you have this interesting little thing that happens where it always comes back to the original number, which is different when you multiply 9, because it actually always comes back to 9, which is fascinating. So that's a little bonus there. Oh, but before I get onto that, and again, many of you may know that if you do any math at all, that in the 3, 4, 5, 6, right? This works here as well, because you have 3 and you have 4, 5, and you have 6, which is interesting because they both have 9s in them. But let's just take a look at this. The 4 and 5 is a 9, right? And so if you add those together, you have a 9, right? And then if you add the 3 and the 6, you also have a 9. And that 9 and that 9 together is 18, which is 9 again. No matter how you add any number to 9, you get that 9 again. I actually didn't realize that when I was doing it in the first place, but that's funny. 3 and 6 is 9, and 4 and 5 is 9. But that's the trick. 9 acts like a 0. No matter if you add it to itself, 9 and 9, right? It's still going to be like in this case, which one is the 0 in that case? Hey, I think I just found myself another pseudoscience rule here. That's pretty cool, man. All right. See the baffling things that happen when you fuck around with this shit. Oops. So now here's the other properties of 9 that's fun, that a lot of people may or may not know. And so it's like this. It always comes back to 9 itself. And so I guess that was a good segue, that I saw that 3 and 6 and that 4 and the 5, and it was a 9 and a 9, which is an 18, and 1 and 8 is 9. Because in multiplication, 9 times 1 is 9, right? Easy enough. But 9 times 2, which is in the case of those those 2 9s I had with the 4 and the 5 and the 3 and the 6, right? 9 times 2 is 18, and 1 and 8 is 9. This goes on and on with 9 all the time. 9 times 3 is 27, 2 and 7 is 9. 9 times 4 is 36, 3 and 6 is 9. 9 times 5 is 45, 4 and 5 is 9. 9 times 6 is 54, 5 and 4 is 9. On and on. It doesn't matter what number you go to. You could go 9 times 111, it's 999. 9 plus 9 plus 9, that's another 27. That's 2 and 7, that's 9. It doesn't matter what you multiply 9 by. When you add all of those digits together, again, you'll get to 9. So when you reduce those numbers again to 9, and that's something that is done in numerology. And that's how I began noticing that other quality of 9 in the first place, is by numerology does reductions in their calculations for doing destiny numbers and name numbers as well. And I had already learned as a little kid, when I was watching some show on TV, there were a lot of really cool things in New York, these educational shows, and there was a song, it was like 999, fantastic number 9. And it said something like, it's pretty consistent. I don't know what that word was. It all comes back to 9. Doom, 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 doom. Let me ask Google. Google, what is that 9 song? 999, fantastic number 9. 999, fantastic number 9 song. It was from Square One. Was that the show? Oh, is this a song? Let me see. Is this the one? That would be so awesome if it is.
Tonight, and we hope you're having a real good time. For our next little thing we're going to do for you, it's a little number that was a real big hit for us. It's called 9. Well, we hope you like it.
I hope this is the song. This might be it. Yes!
Number 9 is
Perfectly consistent.
999, that crazy number 9. Times any number you can find, it all comes back to 9. 2 times 9 is 18. 8 and 1 is 9. 3 times 9 is 27. 7 and 2 is 9. 4 times 9 is 36.
awesome.
8 times 9 is 72. 7 and 2 is 9. 9 times 9 is 81. 8 1 is 9. 999. Fantastic number 9.
It's perfectly consistent.
It works out every time. 999. That crazy number 9. Times any number you can find. It all comes back to 9. 9 times 10 is 90. Just drop the 0 sign. 9 times 11 is 99. Makes me rhyme with another line. Then 99 is 18. And 81 is 9. Times any number you can find. It all comes back to 9.
This works bigger numbers too?
Yep.
Let's try this. 3,487.
9 times 3,487 is 31,383. 3 plus 1 plus 3 plus 8 plus 3 is 18. 1 plus 8 is 9. It always works. 999. Fantastic number 9. It's perfectly consistent and it works out every time. 999. That crazy number 9. Times any number you can find. It all comes back to 9. It all comes back to 9. It all comes back to 9.
I can't believe I found that on YouTube. I've never looked for that before. That was the first time I ever looked for it, and it was there. That was a song when I was a child. So it's called Square One, I guess is the name of the group. 999. That's amazing. Amazing that I found that. Unknown Square One Television. That was what it's from. Wow. Square One TV, 1987. So when I was 10 years old, I guess, or a little bit older is when that was. But I used to see it all the time. That is fantastic. Square One. Square One. Oh gosh, I'm so excited.
It's not, and we hope you're having a...
I'm so excited. See, so there it goes. So there's the bonus. I got a bonus too. I got to find the song. That is so cool. And that's the word he was saying. It's perfectly consistent. It all comes back to 9. 9. Oh, yes. All right. Yep. So, in that case, 9 always comes back to itself. So it's like, in that case, it's like always, no matter what you multiply 9 by, in that case, it's like always multiplying 9 times 1. Every number you multiply 9 by might as well be a 1 in that case. See, this is some interesting stuff, right? When I first saw the Terrence Howard thing, I was attempting to figure out if there was something there like that. You know, the things that I was used to that were rational, that were logical, but I couldn't. 1 times 1 equals 2. No, but 9 equals 0, and 9 times any number, 9 times x is always 1 in this case, because as you saw, 9 times 2 is 18, 1 and 8 is 9. It doesn't matter what it is. 9 times 8, right? 72, 7 and 2 is 9. So it's a pretty cool special case. 9 has some interesting properties. And then I learned years later, after I began dabbling with numerology around 2005 or 2006, which is, 18 or 19 years ago. And I started seeing, when I want to make quick calculations, I can just get rid of the 9 really quick, or anytime I see a couple of numbers or few numbers, any set of numbers that make up 9, I can get rid of it and just focus on the numbers that are left over, and I can get the calculations faster. I don't know why I was obsessed with making quicker calculations, but I still am. And, even today, just for fun, I was doing a bunch of addition and a bunch of arithmetic stuff, and I'm always looking for these little shortcuts and how I can do speed math, I suppose. So that's fun. Right now it's 3:30 in the morning. 3 times 3 is 9. See, there's the mystical math brain. But that's it. 9 equals 0. And that is stranger but it's more logical, rational than 1 times 1 equals 2. Man, that was fun. I'm so glad I found that song. I I'm really happy about that. I gotta. I'm so happy. And I got to share 2 things about 9 here and join it with numerology. This is so much fun. There's gonna be so much stuff coming up. Science fiction communicator. And you know what? I'm gonna read this here, but this is what's going to be some part of the focus of a lot of the things that are coming up here. The videos, the stuff that I'm putting out right now is just so entertaining to me. So what? Some similarities again with Terrence Howard. Also, you know, thinking about Billy Carson, and it all reminds me of the Church of Scientology or the cult of Scientology and L. Ron Hubbard. And Terrence Howard followed a similar path. I don't know about Billy Carson, but the brief history of L. Ron Hubbard is he was this pulp fiction writer. He was really super successful and really good at, supposedly, from what I know, at writing these, graphic novels and things like that. And then somewhere along the line, he got the idea in his head. I don't know if it was because he was hanging out with Alexander, not Alexander, with Anton Xander LaVey, the founder of the Satanic Church, and Aleister Crowley of Ordo Templi Orientis, when they were all visiting Jack Parsons from Jet Propulsion Laboratory. Somehow he got into his mind that he was going to start. First, he wrote the book Dianetics, the psychology, the new psychology of mental health, or whatever it was. And then that led into Scientology and creating the first books of Scientology and all that stuff like that. And so he went from being an artist, a successful artist and entertainer, and then a church and cult leader. Like he went from being an entertainer, basically, and then decided that he was going to go into the realm of like being a therapist and then this spiritual leader, right? Which ended up being a cult. And, a lot of people now, just the way they see Scientology, you can look it up. It's pretty crazy. And, I've been ragging on them for years. I got involved with the Church of Scientology. Somebody said, oh, you need to be careful getting involved with the Church of Scientology. I said, the Church of Scientology need to be careful getting involved with me. I did a whole undercover thing. I know they're going to try to come after me. There's going to be flack and heat for me even saying this if anybody sees this. But I got into the Sea Org. I worked at I took courses at Hubbard College of Administration. I was on staff at LA Day Org. I even convinced people who wanted to leave the Church of Scientology to re-sign on. Like, I was just all up in it. Like, you don't even understand. I was deep. So the point is, though, L. Ron Hubbard decided that he was going to go from being this pulp fiction writer, from doing science fiction, and claiming he's doing science. I mean, and Scientology, in my opinion, it's a brilliant name. It really is. And then and then there's Terrence Howard, who kind of seems like he's attempting, or in some way he's doing a similar path. He hasn't gone as far, right? He hasn't started a cult or a church or everything, but he's written a book. I actually put it on my website, Uniquilibrium, and some other stuff is on there. But, he's a successful actor. He's done a lot of really great things. He was the first War Machine, and he's got all this other stuff that he's doing. Great actor. And then he decides that, not then, because apparently it's gone back when he was a kid, and there's lots of, evidence and testimony to support this, that he's been interested in science for a long time. And even the 8 years ago that he approached Neil deGrasse Tyson with his paper and everything like that. So he's been in it for a while, but like he took that same track where he's like, I'm going to be done with the entertainment thing, or at least I'm now going to put myself out as this, thought leader in science and whatever. And, I don't know if Billy Carson was, mainly like an entertainer before, making movies and doing stuff like that. And now he's going into, the ancient aliens thing and interpreting the ancient Sumerian texts and the tablets and everything like that, and kind of following along the line of Eric von Daniken, which, I really dove deep into his books because of Billy Carson. And there were some things that I saw that I'll have to cover another time that were also kind of... Eric von Daniken's a great author, man. But my point here in getting into this is that I decided to go the other way. You see, I thought growing up that I was going to be a medical doctor or something like that. And then I did get recruited to go to the Navy. I had really high scores on ASVAB. They told me I'd be in intelligence. I went to the Broward Community College at the time. It's now called Broward College. I went to their Criminal Justice Institute, took some aptitude tests there, scored really high at the time. I don't know how they score it now, but the highest score you could get on the test in the 3 different categories, I think it was like a reading and a writing and then a math, and it was 12.9 was the highest you can get, and I got 12.9, 12.9, and 12.2, so some really high scores there. A bunch of police departments sent me a bunch of recruitment letters. They wanted me to join. Didn't do that. And then, I went on this track where I was going to be a psychiatrist. I started taking some pre-med classes, and then I found the Hypnosis Motivation Institute, clinical hypnotist. Thought I was going to be in this way of like being this person who's going to be like this therapist, kind of like the way where L. Ron Hubbard went to. I started there. And even now I'm working on degrees in metaphysics. I got a master's degree in metaphysical sciences, and I'm an ordained minister, even though I'm not religious, and, working on a doctor of divinity and a PhD in metaphysical sciences. And all that stuff at first was because I was like, yeah, I'm going to be this helper, I'm going to do this stuff like that. But then I've decided, nope, I'm a science fiction communicator. And I owe that in large part to a person who works in the science field. He's actually a project manager for NASA, Christopher Birkenbein, who's a science communicator. But this is what I wrote in the beginning of this book, Excommunicado, Science Fiction Communication. And this is the Hypnoathletics Internet Archives Volume 1, which it's failed, but it's still on Amazon, but it's hilarious how it's all screwed up. There's information missing. I did a video about that before. But this is what I wrote in the beginning, and this is how I'm going to end this presentation. To round out 999. I used to think that I would somehow learn to be a person who could help others in some sort of therapeutic way. But after all of the death and destruction in the wake of my life, I realize I am nothing more than a failed attempt at a supervillain origin story. My life seems to be filled with nothing more than round after round of pathetic madness that never quite amounts to what I thought it would. If nothing else though, I have been persistent. The best I can do is offer my research and writing in a compendium as a source book for science fiction communication, meaning that it can be a reference for creators of science fiction who wish to be jolted out of their writer's block with an inspiring dose of mad scientists. With an inspiring dose of mad science. I'm the mad scientist. It also may just provide the reader with a good laugh at the ridiculous blunders manifested from someone who is trying too hard to make it in the world, but never has. There are a few inspired gems that are rather unique and ingenious among the brainwashed fillers. Even much of the less singular notes recorded here are certain to have never been pondered by a significant percentage of inquirers. What the hell did I just write? Much of the less singular notes recorded here are certain to have never been pondered by a significant percentage of inquirers. Therefore, it has something to offer everyone, even if only in the form of cringe-worthy entertainment. Before proceeding, you must know, as will become obvious, that I did not put much effort into curating the table of contents in an orderly fashion. It is as chaotic as my mind, and I allowed the artificial intelligence to arrange it as best it could. I at first set out for this to be a publication with which I could have a physical copy of my own for reference and nothing more. However, I find no reason to limit this to my own review. After all, I once thought it was worthy enough to attempt reaching a worldwide audience with this audacity. So, again, that is just, and you know, there's my cool logo. I love with my Metatron's cube. But, there I said it. That's what I mean, is how it's related to the L. Ron Hubbard story, but in reverse. I reverse engineered that L. Ron Hubbard thing. You see, he started science fiction and wanted to go into this world of being, you know, psychology and spiritual leader, and I started in the whole mental health spiritual leader thing and said, nah, that's not for me. I might as well be a science fiction communicator. I'm just much more suited to that. It's just the way my mind works. I hear stuff and I just go into fantasy and science fiction. That's just the way it is. So and that's it. 9 equals 0. Strange as it might seem, but it is rational, as has been demonstrated. So now you understand, and we also learned a fun new song. Science fiction communicator out. 9 equals 0.